all our missiles were still down. We did have, as I recall, maintenance people on the sites at that time, but the process was ongoing, and it probably took a day or so to get all the missiles back up on alert status.
So they had to take this whole system apart piece by piece, is what you're
No,
saying?
no. There was no taking anything apart. And by the way, there was no damage to any of the um, missile equipment. Um it was simply, uh, I'll tell you what Boeing discovered. Boeing had their own investigative team, and they had uh, taken a part called the logic coupler to do a bench test, not on one of our missiles, but a part they had back at Boeing in Seattle. And they did a bench test and were able to have an intermittent fault signal injected, a signal injected at a particular voltage for a particular time. It was microseconds or milliseconds. Uh, that resulted in this logic coupler um, flipping off or going offline, and that they consider may have caused the missiles to shut down. But but it was an external signal, not an internal glitch or internal signal. So in order for that to happen, these objects, these UAPs, would have had to send a signal through 60 feet of earth and concrete, penetrate triply shielded cable systems, one at a time, very quickly. That would go to this particular piece of hardware called the logic coupler, and that could have caused the guidance system to go offline intermittently and result in the no-go condition.
Okay. So how did the commanding officer, I believe it was First Lieutenant is it Frederick
Mywald.
Thank you. How did he respond to the unfolding of this whole situation when you woke him up?
Well, we were well trained, let's say, to react for any situation such as a missile going down. In other words, getting a no-go indication. We had trained for that, and so we were reacting professionally, I would say. We knew exactly what we had to do, and we had a checklist to do to go through. And so there was no throwing up of hands or emotional outbursts or anything like that.
There was no panic, but topside.
Well, the topside guards, you have to understand, they were standing there with their weapons drawn and looking at a red, orange, glowing, pulsating object. They didn't know what to expect from that. No one had ever seen anything like that before. They could have been, blown to smithereens by some weapon it had. Who knows? But I can certainly understand why they would have been frightened at looking at something like this.
Absolutely. So so I feel like there was different atmospheres below ground and above ground.
Yes, of course.
And obviously, you're like you said, you have to take an elevator 60 stories down, and
60 feet. 60 feet down.
Yeah, 60 feet down. And you know, you're there till your relief comes. So the next day when you came up and I know you said you didn't get to talk to many of the people, but in the time that is now since passed, have you been able to reconnect with any of them and kind of get a better gauge on what the atmosphere was topside when the event was actually occurring?
No, I've never. I've tried to locate some of them, but I've never been able to make contact with any of them. One of the Air Force techniques of keeping secrets like this is to disperse the witnesses. And I'm sure a lot of these guys were dispersed to different assignments. They were all weapons trained. So since we had Vietnam going on at the time, they were many of them probably were sent to Vietnam.
Right. And this is that is I'm so glad you brought that point up, because that's something that we don't, it's not just Malmstrom that is evident of this. It's Ellsworth, an event that would take place some 10 years later. They would do the same thing with Mario Woods. The day after, him and his partner who experienced the UFO, they shipped them off to different bases, to different assignments. And I can imagine that, like you said, this is a way of kind of separating everyone so that no one can get a coherent picture of what actually took place.
All right, and they wanted to stop any rumors of, progressing through the base about what had happened.
Right. And I mean, were there rumors?
Yes.
So, I mean, even though you did sign an NDA, people knew something happened. I
Oh,
mean,
yes, absolutely.
missiles went into no-go. So it's safe to say that that's something that people would be aware of on a base that houses these kind of things. So,
Yeah.
did you get ridiculed or did you get looked at
No,
sideways?
we of course we couldn't talk to anybody about this, and nobody talked to us about it. In fact, I want to make that point too, that even though our crews were briefed every time they went out on alert about the status of missiles, any problems in the field, with technical issues, etc. In the 2 years that I was there after the incident, I never heard of any discussion about any of these two incidents, the Echo or Oscar incident. The reason I mentioned rumors is because it was in one of the official documents that we received. It actually stated rumors of UFO around the time of the Echo flight shutdown were disproven. Now, I don't know how they went about disproving a rumor. I actually wrote to the author of that document. It's called the quarterly report from the wing to SAC headquarters, Strategic Air Command headquarters. We were required to write a quarterly review. And that man, we wrote to him, the author of that report, for this time period, asked him about this statement about rumors of UFOs, and he said he never interviewed anybody that was indicating any rumors of UFOs, and he said there were times when his commanders would change what he had written, and those times were the UFO history of the wing, and those were his words, and some kind of a morale problem in the fighter squadron. We had a fighter squadron assigned to Malmstrom at the time. So basically, he had indicated that there had been other UFO incidents at Malmstrom.
And I think there's overwhelming, and if you were finding that out then about previous, then anything that came the evidence that I've come across that happened to and regarding Malmstrom since, it just seems like it's a real hotspot for UFOs or unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs. What can I would ask you a personal question in a way. At first, you said, that initial phone call you took, you I don't want to say you were dismissive, but let's just say that was your left brain or right brain, whichever the one is the one that thinks about logic.
I think that's the last one.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Well, left.
Because lefties are the only ones in their right mind. Yes, that makes sense. Yes.
Okay.
So it's after that, the second phone call comes in. He's more panicked. Then the missiles, they start shutting off. I know you didn't see the UFO, but before this incident, before March 24th, did you believe UFOs existed?
I had no opinion one way or the other. I had read the reports in the newspaper, like I said, and when we started researching this in earnest, I received copies of many days of reports of lights in the sky reported by farmers, ordinary citizens, etc. So I really didn't pay much attention to that. I was not interested in the subject per se. So that's about best I can tell you. I was not focused on UFOs.
So it's not like, because a lot of people think that people make up these stories. They're prone to fantasy, that kind of stuff. But it seems like, number one, we can discount that by you having the job that you had. You would need to be of sound mind and so many other things, that would be out of the question. So your credibility is among what I would consider the top of the top, in terms of, like I said, in terms of credibility, just in who you are. So, but you also really didn't have an opinion nor care about the UFO issue prior. When did you become a believer?
Well, that evening.
That's what I was hoping. That's what I was hoping.
Again, that evening, the next day, and onward, I looked this guy in the face when I went back upstairs the next day. I was relieved. We were relieved by another crew. I had to really force him to talk to me because they had already been told not to talk to anyone about what they had experienced. I think he never said that, but that was the impression I got. But I looked at this guy in the face, and when you want to get the truth out of somebody, you look them in the eyes, and when people are lying to you or telling the truth. But there was no question that what had happened topside And like I said, I got confirmation about the injury later on in writing.